I done soundproofed my new studio, if you can call my shitty ass desk a studio, which you can't. People often tell me free speech is nice, but people who say offensive shit just for the sake of saying it shouldn't be allowed to do that. So essentially, people should be allowed to make use of offensive humor if they have a deeper message, but provocateurs and comedians who only engage in shock humor for the sake of it shouldn't be allowed to do so. And then there's always the context doesn't matter crowd, but they'll be getting their comeuppance in this video also. Don't worry about that. In any given society, there's a window of things you're allowed to talk about, topics you're allowed to broach, and ideas you're allowed to entertain. In the center, you have very mundane things like, I like my wife's food, or how is the weather today? Then a bit farther out, you have things like legalize weed, or save the environment, or celebrity gossip. And then, in the far reaches of stuff, you have the 14 words, or behead the bourgeoisie, or I like to drink a glass of milk each morning. You know, extreme stuff. Then there's also the legal window, which isn't necessarily the same as the cultural window. For example, you're legally allowed to don a Nazi flag and unironically start the petition to gas all the kikes and furries because they are disgusting, even though that is very far outside what the cultural window allows, and you will probably get shunned by society if you do this, at least if you're in the West. Now, the legal window doesn't necessarily have to deteriorate. It'll generally follow the cultural window, but that is not a necessity. Sometimes the legal window will be larger than the cultural window, like in the US, where you can pretty much say anything, but you won't get away with anything with your friends. And in Hong Kong, it's the other way around, where the cultural window is larger than the legal window. You can talk about censorship with your friends, but you gotta be careful that the government don't hear you, because they might declare you a dog and ripe for consumption. The cultural window, on the other hand, will deteriorate over time, and the list of things you're allowed to say will get smaller. Generally, it's a rule of thumb if you study history, that there is a certain correlation between the smallness of the cultural window and the shitness of the society you're talking about. Nazi Germany, small window, shit society. The Soviet Union, small window, shit society. North Korea, small window, all hail the supreme leader. You see what I'm saying here, right? Societies in which you can say these things are always better than societies in which you can't. And the window does not have to be even. You can have certain extreme ideas here you can talk about in your restricted society, and all the others you can't. Still means your window's small. What provocateurs do is make sure this window stays as large as possible. A comedian that employs shock humor that is right on the borderline or beyond the borderline does so to enable someone who has less extreme ideas to be able to say those ideas seriously. They do normalize speech. Aha! You exclaim at the computer screen through which I cannot hear you, so why the fuck are you doing that? That's fucking weird. If you have someone pushing boundaries toward Nazi shit, people are gonna say Nazi shit and then we're gonna have Nazis. I'll stop you right there because that is not the correct conclusion to come to from this statement. You see, the best way to fight Nazis is to have them speak freely about being Nazis and the things they actually believe, because that way they'll hang themselves by it. If you want to keep the amount of legit Nazi shit in your society low, let them talk. Let them talk. Because it's not sufficient to know that National Socialism is bollocks. You have to know why it is utter bollocks. And for that to happen, you have to be exposed to their ideas and engage in a discourse with arguments and counter-arguments, which they'll always lose. If the Nazi ideas are outside the window, they don't disappear, they just go invisible. And invisible ideas can be highly volatile. Just look at Germany right now. Over the past few years, the window has been getting smaller and smaller, and even moderate right-wing positions are no longer allowed to be espoused. And what do you got now? It's Nazis is what do you got now, and I don't like them. I don't like them Nazis. That's why I want to get out of this country. I don't like Nazis, and they're coming, and I don't like that. The reason behind this is simple, so I'll explain it to you with an oversimplified example. If the government and the elites in your society ban the speaking of a certain ideology, then it follows that they perceive this ideology as a threat. Now, if you're not particularly well off in that society, you might be inclined to change it. Now, you know that fascism is bad, but you don't know why, you don't know what fascism is, really. So you go and meet with your secret Mussolini fan club, because that still exists, the ideas don't disappear, they just go invisible, and you find out about all these things, and you get this ideology, and it has all the answers and explanations for why everything's wrong with society, and you end up finding out that, oh lord, the reason they don't want us to know these things is because it's the truth. At no point do you go to your regular friends and go, hey, I heard about this thing. The Jews are at fault for everything, and they have to be destroyed because they're keeping the white man down. And your friends never get the opportunity to go, well, actually, no, that's not true, because here's the reasons why. You've never broached this topic with your regular friends. You know it's forbidden, after all. You've never been exposed to the rebuttals to these things, because for the rebuttals to exist, people need to understand the ideology they're doing the rebuttals against. Or rather, let me put it like this. Would you rather fight someone to the death who's invisible, or someone who's not invisible and there you can see? The answer is pretty obvious to me, to be honest. So if you want to help Nazis, just censor and deplatform them. Also known as employing the Streisand Effect. I'm looking at you, left wing, if that is your real name. Also, if you're afraid that being exposed to Nazi ideology might make you a Nazi, I got some bad news for you. Provocateurs and comedians can safely expose you to new ideas without actually having to believe in those ideas. And personally, I'd rather discuss Nazism with someone who's pretending to be a Nazi rather than an actual Nazi, but that is just a personal preference of mine. Also, that doesn't mean that if you have an actual Nazi who's talking this shit, you also gotta let him speak. Another function of shock humor is that it forces you not to forget about all the horrible things that happened in the past. I don't want to think about the Holocaust all day, that shit's depressing. But thanks to horrible Holocaust jokes, I'm able to deal with the subject matter without dying a little inside every time I think about it, which is something that people generally prefer to avoid. I'm joking. I am already dead inside. But what's all this got to do with our society today? We in the West, we love innovation and pushing boundaries. We love, except we don't. We hate it. We really, really hate pushing boundaries. It's been our mantra for so long that we've absolutely forgotten what it actually means. Hollywood and the leftist press, who used to be the ones who were expanding the window, are now finding themselves in charge of it. And they're finding that the window is expanding in ways they don't like. So what do? This whole free market of ideas shit, it's gotten a bit out of hand, don't you think? I mean, there's ideas out there we don't like, and we like ideas that the market don't like, so let's just dial this whole pushing boundaries thing down a little bit. Let's just stop. But of course you can't say that outright, because people would look at you weird. We love progress, after all. Western society is all about progress. So instead of saying stop pushing boundaries, you say that's wrong what he says. Don't listen to him, listen to us. It's wrong, and what do you do? Who is internet? That's why you have a massive push in tech companies to cleanse the internet right now, because everybody has a soapbox, and the people who work themselves into control of the cultural discourse by repeating the mantra of pushing boundaries don't want certain things to be talked about. Those things are often quite moderate, but to get rid of them, you have to get rid of the most extreme people first, be they legitimate nutjobs or just comedians trying to push buttons. So that's why they're trying to get shit censored or filtered, as they say, and people smeared, because really the end goal here is to take the cultural window and make it as small as possible in order to justify a shrinking of the legal window. Which, if nobody's complaining about something because it's socially unacceptable, nobody's going to complain about it being made illegal because it's already socially unacceptable. And the hardcore Nazi shit, which is going to go invisible, will gain steam faster than the classical liberal shit because it's more extreme. And then we're all going to have Nazis again. So, today's lesson is, let your provocateurs keep that window big, because they're the ones ensuring that you can say your serious ideas. And also because if they don't, we're gonna have to fight invisible Nazi ninjas. And those have very high challenge rating, and it's not fun. I'm telling you, it's not good. If you hated this video, give it a thumbs up. And also, if you didn't hate this video, also give it a thumbs up. And subscribe also. And share this with your friends. Because I'm desperate.